Hey, Bill O'Reilly here, another YouTube bonus, and we have a lot of very interesting things to tell you. You're going to be a lot smarter in 10 minutes than you are now. And it's important, and you know this stuff, because John F. Kennedy is revered by Democrats and a lot of Republicans, and he's a lot like Donald Trump. And I'm going to make that case, particularly on the National Guard stuff. And people don't remember what happened in our recent history. And Trump's doing exactly what JFK did and Dwight Eisenhower. So let me walk through it. I promise this won't be boring. All right, you got it. So on May 17, 1954, the Supreme Court ruled, Brown versus Brown, that segregation in public schools is unconstitutional, which means that every minority, African American, all other minorities, had to be admitted to public schools if they were qualified. If you got into the college, then you couldn't deny you on skin color and ethnicity, which was a fair ruling. It should have been done in 1834, not 1954. Okay. Then 3 years later, President Eisenhower signed the Civil Rights Act of 1957. That focused on voting rights. You couldn't have a poll tax. You couldn't have a quiz before you registered. You couldn't have any of that. Every American is entitled to vote. You're over 18 years old. Now, Eisenhower was pretty mad that there was resistance to this. And then in Arkansas, a guy named Orville Faubus, who was the governor, he wouldn't let the black kids in to a high school in Little Rock. Okay? There were 9 black kids. They wouldn't let them in. Governor wouldn't let them in. Governor sent National Guard to the school to deny the kids. Eisenhower did not like that at all. Okay? Now, my mentor, Mike Wallace, on CBS, interviewed Faubus. Roll it.
Why did you not instead assign a dozen troops to escort each Negro child to and from classes, thereby preventing violence and obeying the order of the court at the same time?
Because the best way to prevent the violence was to remove the cause. You would not have removed the cause by that type of activity. You would have had the eminence of disorder and violence within the school and outside the school. And whether or not it breaks out in the school, it could break out in other sections of the city.
He was a racist, and he didn't like black people, and he was hurting them, and Eisenhower said no. And so Eisenhower sent federal troops, the 101st Airborne Division, to Little Rock, Arkansas, to stop the madness. Here's Eisenhower.
Local authorities have not eliminated that violent opposition. And under the law, I yesterday issued a proclamation calling upon the mob to disperse. This morning, the mob again gathered in front of the Central High School of Little Rock, obviously for the purpose of again preventing the carrying out of the court's order relating to the admission of Negro children to that school. Whenever normal agencies prove inadequate to the task, and it becomes necessary for the executive branch of the federal government to use its powers and authority to uphold federal courts, the president's responsibility is inescapable.
Same thing on immigration law. Same thing. Illinois, Chicago, sanctuary cities, California, Oregon, on, won't obey immigration law and are impeding federal agents, ICE agents, from finding people who are here illegally. Same thing. No difference. Now, going back, 5 years after Eisenhower's address, John F. Kennedy is president. Starts up again, okay? First in Mississippi. A man named Jay Meredith gets admitted to Ole Miss, all right? Governor Ross Barnett won't let them go in. There are riots, deaths. Okay, there were almost deaths in Chicago last weekend over the ICE agents. Remember that. Okay, so JFK sends 17,000 federal troops, 70,000 to Mississippi. Paratroopers airborne to enforce civil rights laws. Then the next year, George Wallace, remember him, governor of Alabama, another racist. He stands in a doorway. He's blocking the kids from going in the University of Alabama. Kennedy sends more troops down. Here's what JFK said.
This afternoon, following a series of threats and defiant statements, the presence of Alabama National Guardsmen was required on the University of Alabama to carry out the final and unequivocal order of the United States District Court of the Northern District of Alabama. That order called for the admission of 2 clearly qualified young Alabama residents who happened to have been born Negro.
So, I ask you all over the world, what is the difference? You got 2 presidents in the 1950s, early 60s. Obviously, southern states, some of them, were not obeying the federal civil rights laws. Blank you. Presidents say, send them down to restore order, to prevent violence, and to allow the students to attend the schools, and that was their right. Homeowners, when is the last time you checked on your home title? If your answer is never, then this is for you. Scammers are stealing titles, and your equity is a target. Criminals forge your signature. Just like that, your home title can be transferred out of your name. That's why I partnered up with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim. Please use my promo code BILL at HometitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report. Plus, you will get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title, urgent alerts of any changes, and if fraud does happen, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. That's HometitleLock.com, promo code BILL. Flash forward to now, 2025. Oh, we're not going to cooperate with immigration law, says Governor Pritzker of Illinois. No, we're not going to do it. And we're not going to, and if an ICE agent is being threatened and may be killed, our cops aren't going to help him. Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago, not going to help him. If Trump didn't do anything, and again, Biden didn't do a thing, because Biden is the architect of the open border. He didn't want federal immigration laws enforced. He's the real villain here, Biden, because he caused all of this. And it's going to cost $1 trillion to round up all the people that are here illegally and to give them some kind of hearing. Remember, a lot of these people get hearings. They're not all just booted out, put on a bus and a plane and sent across the border. But we need a new immigration law. The one we're operating under is 1952. Eisenhower and Kennedy had recent laws that were passed by Congress. So you tell me, is there any difference? Civil rights, immigration. Federal law, federal law. Not going to cooperate. Mississippi, not going to cooperate. Illinois. D.C., Oregon, L.A., Boston, New York. I'm sitting there, I'm going, if you can tell me what the difference is. So the same people who are objecting now to Trump using the military to enforce federal law when the locals won't, they have JFK as a big hero for doing what he did to desegregate education in the South. Kennedy's revered to this day by the Democratic Party. So Kennedy, what he did is okay. It was great. Well, the same thing. I'm just sitting there going, and you know what the real tragedy is? And this is why I'm so happy that we do have the YouTube channel. So people who live overseas outside the United States, they don't know. How would they know? It's impossible. But American citizens don't know. They're not taught what happened in the Eisenhower Kennedy administrations. They have no idea about civil rights law. They have no idea that immigration law goes back to 1952, hasn't been upgraded since then, and it should be. We need a brand new immigration law here. Very specific about who can come, how long they can stay, what the process is for asylum, right there. And then the dreamers, we ought to cut them a break. You're dragged here by your irresponsible parents and you're 3, and now you're 30. You're going to get booted back to Paraguay? That's not fair. That's not what we're about here in America. But you got to revise the law. Have to. But neither party will do it because they use the law to try to whip up their base. Oh, we're so compassionate on the Democratic side. Oh, and on the Republican side, no, you know. And it's wrong. And my job is to straighten it all out. And I believe that in the Supreme Court hearing, the Supreme Court will side with Trump on the National Guard. He'll win all the lawsuits against him. They're going to use the memo that I presented on the No Spin News on my television and radio broadcast earlier, signed by Robert Kennedy, the Attorney General, on behalf of his brother, the President. That'll be used in the Supreme Court proceeding because I know that the federal government, the Justice Department, was watching when I presented it. I have the document, not a copy. I have the original. Anyway, we really appreciate you paying attention. I hope that wasn't boring. It's a good history lesson, but history can be exciting, certainly necessary and relevant. We'll see you soon.